First up, recognition for Tyler Dunphy, our student rep. He is not here at this time. Wait a minute, I might, there it is now. Timing's everything for Tyler. I'll wait until he gets in.
Make it McDanus.
Yeah, make it a
Dramatic. That's fine, that's all good.
Rival.
So again, recognition for Tyler Dunphy, our student rep. Tyler came to us on November 1st. Is a student rep from the high school and has been with us for 4+ months. So we'd like to recognize his contributions to the board.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Tyler.
Thank you guys.
Next up, I should say, public input. Anybody for public input? Seeing none, if somebody comes along in the next 30 minutes, they'll be allowed to speak. Okay, first up for business. Our students, our schools, Lamprey River Elementary School Read Across America Week.
We have Ms. Benson and a large contingency of students to talk about Read Across America.
I really. Let's see there.
And I'll mention this, if the parents want to take pictures and or video, they're more than welcome to come up either side of us so that you can catch that if you wish. It's your choice. Oops, that wasn't too smooth. Sorry.
We celebrated Read Across America the week before February break to kind of minimize a little bit of the chaos coming back because it's a really fun, interactive week for us. I worked with Lisa Baca and Laura Pierce to plan at least one activity every day for kids. And really the goal was to make reading really fun and engaging.
My name is Caleb, and I'm listening to the second grade. During Read Across America, we got paper pencils and we got flashlights. My class had a color book. My favorite place to read was number 2 under my desk and my table desk. Another activity we had during was best reader. My class had first Christine sweet tools. She read the book of no pictures. I like this book because it's funny. My name is Noah and I'm Miss McDougal's third grade class. During Read Across America, we had wildlife encounters visits. We were able to have them visit because we had them with on. Some of the animals that visited were a frog, a lizard, and a fennec fox. My favorite part was when I got to pull the frog because it was cool. The frog was bumpy and its legs were like the bottoms of an eraser.
Guys can go back in if you want.
My name is my class wanted to go visit Miss Lewis' class. We really pray for Sergeant to take the new dress up front.
One of the things that we did with students this year that we hadn't done in the past was contra reading tickets and trivia tickets. So teachers were given tickets for students, and when they were caught reading, they would get a ticket, put their name on it, and they got to put it into a mailbox in the library. And we were able to give out 88 books to students. So that was really exciting. Another thing we did was to pick 4 books, and we sent out videos of one of the books being read one morning, every morning. And they, second and third graders could answer a trivia question about it and enter those tickets. Those are the colored ones. And they could also win books. So they were part of the 88. And on Friday, all of the students voted on their favorite book out of the 4. And An Imaginary Friend Beagle is the book that won.
I can tell the book. Then when you finish it.
Cadence is gonna talk about our readathon. Our readathon is a fundraiser we've done now. This is our 4th year. As a whole school, we've run a ton of minutes. And the readathon has enabled us to have Marty Kelly come visit us and do a presentation. We had Simon Brooke come. It's paid for wildlife encounters, which I talked about. That's the kids' favorite because they get to interact with the animals. And we're gonna have Ted Chu come in April, and he's a poet from Vermont, and he's actually gonna end up doing a workshop with the 2nd and 3rd graders. He's presenting a day, and then doing a workshop with the 2nd and 3rd graders day. And it was all because we were able to fundraise the money to bring in these guest speakers. I was really amazed by how many minutes Cadence read. It was a lot. It was so cool. So that is all we have for you tonight. Do you do questions? I don't know.
Yeah, normally we would.
Okay.
Questions, comments for? Go ahead.
Do you think you'll read more books now that you did this?
Go ahead, Steve.
Do you have a favorite type of book? Amy said she likes Charlotte's Web. Does anyone else have one?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Very cool.
Stick.
Yeah. Same book.
Awesome.
Anybody else? Well, thank you very much. Good job, folks.
Yes. Nice job.
Jessica, I'll send you the pictures.
Thank you for the parents for bringing in your students. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Don't bother, Jess. She'll,
Don't worry.
yeah, she'll use her own. Thank you.
All good.
Well, she's got an apple, so maybe she won't. Take that back. A little issues with that the last time, just saying.
All right. Next up, Student Services Report.
Students.
Student rep.
Representative.
Oh, sorry. Tyler's big night and I notoriously for doing that. Student rep to the school board. Yeah.
All right, so currently what's going on in the school? Well, the week before break, site council got to meet with admin and discuss sort of certain policies concerning the grading system and clarify some things, which was definitely a help to understand admin's perspective on the matter. It was good, and then this week, it's sort of just getting back into the swing of things. Everyone's all groggy-eyed. Can't wait for spring already. And then Mr. Raymond is also coming up, which should be fun. We should see a bunch of kids perform and do all sorts of wacky stuff. So I've heard. So looking forward to that.
Do you know when that is?
The 21st.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, all right. Student Services Report.
Good evening.
Evening, Jody.
Jokes on the way.
Silence.
Something I have to do.
Does anybody know about the eclipse coming up? April
Yes.
8th? Yeah, we starting to think about that.
It's gonna rain.
Did talk to, because
Is it gonna rain? Okay, I haven't really looked at the weather.
If Kevin can predict that far in advance, he's gonna.
I thought it was gonna be a snowstorm.
Snow.
It was gonna be a snowstorm, now we're to rain,
Yeah.
so.
This is what happened with me, Jody, so I had to use the old HP up there, just saying.
Yes,
That's somewhere, but not.
Yeah. Nice screensaver.
You probably have
I
to
think
bear
you're
it.
on, multi-desktop. You should be able to slide it over.
look at that. He's here.
Wow.
I'm just saying, I
was that last week?
the entertainment value.
Word there, Terry.
Now I get cut up for it.
I guess I missed it last week.
No, I remember I couldn't get mine to work.
Oh, sure.
I remember you didn't get it to work, but I guess I
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's okay.
entertainment was worth it.
It's getting late in the evening. I understand. We were approaching 9:30, so
yeah.
let's wrap it up, Terry.
It's like, yeah, this is real interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think the projector's low enough, that's all. You go back to the slide, the pie chart, still thinking.
Is the screen just not pull all the way?
There we go.
I don't know who did that.
I think it was me.
All right.
Perfect.
So this evening I'll be giving you a quick update on data, program updates, an update on updates and just updates within the department and the district, and then reviewing an indicator report. This is just some updates on the October 1st count. As I last presented, we still do not have the state's count for October 1st for this year. That's why it's still highlighted in yellow. Everything above yellow is directly from the state's calculations. And then below yellow are just random things that I have pulled to just show you kind of where we are. So, and I just pulled it a couple days ago. It's not in here. It actually went down a couple from the February number. So we're still right around 20% for identified students. Update for number of students with 504 plans. There are currently 100 students out of 164 students full enrollment. When I last did this, we had 102 students and the enrollment was 1,152. So slight change, not much. Percentages, all the percentages are the same because the numbers have only changed a couple. So we're still at 29% of student enrollments are students with disabilities, which is a 20% with IEPs and 9% with 504 plans. And you can see that pie chart has basically stayed the same. Our out of district placement numbers have also maintained. When I last presented, we had 19, we still have 19. The percentage briefly went down for the amount of students with IEPs district-wide, just because the enrollment number went up. So it was 8.6, now it's 8.1, very minor. And the gang has stayed the same. Programming. As I have presented before in the past, we have 3 at-risk programs. We have one at the elementary, one at the middle school, and one at the high school. And these programs are for identified and non-identified students. Programs are the PONT, the RAM, and REAP. REAP's still in transition. They want to change the name, but that's still in flux as far as what that's going to be based off of student input. So what I wanted to present to you today is just to kind of put
just food for thought out on the table as we think about programming for upcoming years and budgets for upcoming years. We currently do not have any self-contained programs for students that exhibit behavior challenges. We have self-contained programs for students that have low cognitive profiles, but we don't have any for behavior challenging students. So if we were to look at extending some programming, we already have DOE approval. You're required to get education approval for self-contained programs. Self-contained programs are students with disabilities only. They're capped at 12 students within the program, within the class. We went through, my predecessor went through getting approval from the DOE for a self-contained behavior program at the middle school only. So we currently have that. So at the end of last year, during the summer, beginning of this year, there was a lot of conversation on, do we have an at-risk middle school program or do we have a self-contained middle school program? Remember last year we had Constellations come in and they provided support at the middle school for half of the year to have any program in place. They were kind of maintaining at that point students that we had. There was a lot of thoughtful conversations, and based off of current student needs at the time, we decided to have a at-risk program so that it matched the elementary and high school. So there's a smooth, seamless transition that you can go from PON to RAM to REAP. We still have that approval for the middle school. There are some conversations about it might be appropriate for some students currently within the district, as well as some students outside of the district that could potentially be appropriate for a self-contained program at the middle school level. If we were to do that, it would require a special education teacher. And if we were to do it, I would recommend also getting approval for a self-contained program at the high school level, because once the student goes into the program, if they're being successful, but they're not ready for a least restrictive environment, if we don't have one at the high school, then we're basically going to have to tell parents, we can't provide the services necessary for your children because we just put them in a restrictive placement. We don't offer that at high school because we don't have a program. So we're going to be sending those students out to placement. So I don't, unless it's like 4th and 5th graders, I don't really want to roll forward with a self-contained program unless we're also looking at a self-contained program at the high school, because then we're also putting out on the table that we're going to do out of districts for students at that point. That becomes a little bit more cost intensive. And again, this is just information purposes at this point. Right now, I'm not looking for anything for next year's budget. That budget's already been done, presented on, proposed. But what that would mean is we would also need a special education teacher for the high school. But in addition to that, we would also need, and this comes into the scheduling for the high school right now, we would also need your core content teachers to be teaching the students in that self-contained program. The students in that program would still be seeking a regular diploma and therefore would still need to be taught by highly qualified content area teachers. How this typically works is the students either would they would either all transition together and go to English as a group. So let's say there were 12 students in the self-contained program. All 12 students during a block would go to English and be taught by an English teacher, or that English teacher would come down to their location within the building and teach them English. So that requires content area teachers to also be involved in this type of a model, which again really goes into how we schedule teachers and do we have enough teachers to then open them up for an additional block of teachers.
I have a question.
Questions? Yeah.
So you're saying what type of students are these?
This
Like
program,
behavioral or just,
behavioral.
so 12 behavioral?
I wouldn't advise putting 12 behavioral in a room. I'm just saying that that was just a cap is 12. Typically, these programs operate best if you have probably like 6 to 8 students in the program, no more. But there's also ways, self-contained programs, you have to be in that program 60% or more of your day. So depending on the other additional electives that students take, sometimes you might actually have 12 students in the program, but within the classroom, there's not necessarily 12 students at a time because different students are going to different electives at different times. Because a lot of times the students aren't able to maintain themselves in a structured English class or math class, but they're able to go to like And then you'll see that, I did a special education, just analysis through, NASDAQ. They offered to do them for us. So, and this is just from them. They gave us a trend line, and you will see that our, outside special education placements expenditures are, expected to continue to grow. And I only put this out there because, again, if we were to do this, the intent would be for the middle and the high school levels that eventually we're going to bring more students back in-house, and our out-of-district figures and expenses would decrease.
So that's in
So these classes with behavioral students, I'm just thinking if I were the teacher, would there be another helper in the room?
Yep, it would be co-taught by the special education teacher.
Okay,
And oftentimes there's a paraeducator in there as well.
okay, that sounds a little better than just,
Or you might have a related service provider in there if there's additional, speech going on or something like that. But, yeah, you would definitely have the regular education teacher and the special education teacher. And then, it's different if it's a class of 4 versus 8.
and do they modify the curriculum at all for that type of?
They wouldn't modify
Situation.
it. They might reduce some of the expectations, but because they're still going for a regular high school diploma, they wouldn't be modifying the work.
We've, as you mentioned, Jody, that this program has been approved for us for maybe 2 years, whatever it is. We've been unsuccessful in trying to get somebody.
So I think, yes, I think in part, it's not an easy position to fill. Last year, again, we had Constellations come in to do that. I have seen programs run successfully. You just have to get the appropriate personnel in those roles. And certainly there's training that we could provide to other teachers as well. If we have somebody that's passionate about teaching, but they just have general special education and they're not as much training in behavior management, but they're willing to learn and grow. There are courses and trainings that we can send people to as well to help support them.
The reason I bring it up is just so that people at home understand that we've got an approval. Well, why aren't we doing it? Well, we've been unsuccessful in trying to get people in to that position.
So last year, the way we had advertised it, we were hoping to do that. We didn't get anybody. This year, when we did hire for the position, we did frame it a little bit differently through the interviews with the applicants, that it was going to be the at-risk program, which is regular education and special education.
Currently, ballpark, how many students at the middle school, if we had it today, how many would we have in that program ballpark? Just a
It's,
rough estimate.
I don't know if it's less than 10.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about a program, we need to know.
Yeah.
What is it, the impact versus the cost of it, right? In a sense, so we would,
I want to say between some students that are in and maybe students that are out, we would have enough students for a program. And I think it would be an appropriately sized program that wouldn't be too many students. So you wouldn't be up to cap, but I think it would be big enough where they would feel like they're getting the social interactions that they need. And I think it would be worth it from a financial standpoint.
I've got another question to see. Here at the high school, you mentioned the hypothetical, you got X number of kids in the program. They might all go to English at one time, or the English teacher might go to them. How does that work in the sense that they're probably at different levels? One might be a freshman up to a senior, right? And how does that work in the sense of getting, one, we've got a requirement that you got to do American Lit, World Lit, and then after that, it's pretty much your choice, but.
So the teachers would differentiate the instruction based off the student's needs, and depending on how it plays out, if you have students that range between 14 and 22 within the program, you have to have 2 different sections, because there's also a cap on the amount of age span and grade spans and that you can have within your self-contained programs. So don't quote me, because it's like one's 4 and one's 5, and I'd have to look them up which is which. But you can't have a 14-year-old and a 22-year-old or a 21-year-old within the same self-contained at the same time. So, and it's similar to that with academic ability too. You also have to look at the academic ability, and it can't be more than a certain amount of years difference. So depending on, again, if we had to hire in the younger kids, we'd have to have two different classes that would work. If we started it at the middle school, I think naturally we'd be looking at, as the middle school students start to transition to the high school, bring those students. So we'd be planning basically a continuance of the middle school students, so they'd all be within a couple grade spans of each other.
And then the last thing I just wanted to mention was, I did the calculation. That's about 86% increase from the school year 1920 to present day out of district costs. So about 17% on average. So that's just give people at home some perspective as to
That's great.
we see it, but go ahead, Steve.
So you had mentioned there was a max of 12. Obviously, we try not to do that. What happens, or what would we do if we somehow ended up with a need for 14 or 16 students? Would we just have to hire a second special ed teacher and split the program? Or would we have to literally cap it at some point?
You could either hire another one and split the program, or you could get very creative with your scheduling and you could figure out how to never have more than 12 in that location at a
At a
time
time.
and plan electives accordingly.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And it also depends, right? Some students in the program might have the option of being out of the program 40% and only need to be in 60%, and other students might be in the program 90% of the time, right? So, but it's manageable to do.
Go ahead.
Is there any statistical information out there about if we have the program throughout, the district, will it bring down cost for out of district placements? Because I don't want to get hit on both sides. We'll do the program and all of a sudden kids are getting in high school going, well, we're just gonna go out of district anyhow now, and then you kind of paying for twice as much.
I don't know if I could provide statistical information, but I can say that that would be the intent of the programs, is to look at the students that have been placed out of district or behavioral needs and to try to get them to come back in district.
Thank you.
And then moving forward, we wouldn't necessarily be looking at placing students because we'd have a place to put them in.
Steve.
Just talking about costs again, the costs that you have in the chart here, are those including transportation or is that just tuitions?
Just
I have a question.
Go ahead, Cindy.
So, I'm just thinking about, people that are, say the kids are out of district and they don't particularly like that school that they pick, however that works. Can they choose to go to another one? Or,
another out of district.
yeah, like choose to go to a different school?
So if the family's not pleased with the current placement, they would call an IEP team meeting and they would discuss their concern with the IEP team. And if that team, which would include an LEA from the school district, determined that it was best to meet the students' needs to look at other programming, they certainly would. But it's not an automatic that we want to try something else. There'd be a lot of thoughtful conversations about it. And then if we had a program like this, that would be part of the conversation. But I think sometimes it just depends on, the reasons. Is it truly that the school is not appropriate and can no longer accommodate that child? Or is it for another reason?
The reason I ask that question is because, the grass is always greener, and say you bring everybody back here and, usually there's no heaven on earth. I figured that out. So people might have things they think, oh, it's not that good here, so let's go somewhere else. And it might be just the same somewhere else. You can't fix every problem. But I was just wondering, like, say we bring them back here, how can you ensure that they're actually not going to look for out of district placement?
We can't ensure that. I mean, I would say in any district, right, there's, regardless of how many amazing internal programs you have, there's always going to be families and students that are based out of district. Just some department updates and priorities. We are continuing, speaking of, the need for these types of programs, at-risk programs. We're continuing to work with our SEL programming and our staffing. So we have been very diligent about ensuring that all the students that need the behavior support plans, and functional behavior assessments needed and conducted are getting those done. I don't have a percentage, but almost all of them are finally done, whereas a lot of them were not done at the beginning of the year or had previously been done, but for whatever reason, we didn't have the documentation and we had to redo some of that. And then we're continuing to have our monthly consultation through facilitation with Ceresc at the elementary level, the middle school level, the high school level, and the district level. And most of those teams right now are looking at establishing clear entrance and exit criteria for your at-risk program. So again, that's your POND, your RAM, and your REAP program. I presented on this once before, but charter school MOUs, which is now a requirement through the Department of Education. So I'll be working with charter schools on getting MOUs signed again for next year. Some of those
Did you just?
Go ahead, go ahead.
MOU is?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, can you?
Memorandum of Understanding.
Memorandum of Understanding.
Okay.
Sorry. Some of those will be simple because they were fairly simple last year, and it's just going to basically be, we're still in agreement and we're going to sign the same agreement that we have. This was a requirement for the first time last year. So there are going to be some that are going to be more challenging because there were compromises and negotiations last year with certain charter schools that we agreed to certain terms, but we didn't agree to certain terms, that the state had kind of provided as far as an example, or attorneys had provided as an example as far as this is what your MOU should look like. Some charter schools were more challenging to work with as far as what those documents look like. So I'll be continuing to work with those to try to get some of the changes that we're still looking to have in our plans for next year.
John? Go ahead. Not too sure about charter schools, but I know when we have MOUs here, what exactly are we having an MOU for? Is it price or things that I don't want to go into the weeds here with certain things. Is it things that we're giving to students that they're providing that we said we didn't want, or?
So a big portion of it is, we only do MOUs with charter schools that we have students placed in that have IEPs. So let me first clarify that, because we have students that go to lots of charter schools, but we only have MOUs with those that have students with IEPs. And then those MOUs are all pertaining to special education. So various provisions. The one that is the sticking point for many districts and charter schools right now is the cost reimbursement. So students with IEPs that go to a charter school are still entitled to all of their services. And they would either be provided by district personnel or by charter school personnel or contracted providers. Charter schools, some charter schools have their own personnel and they provide the services because they see the kids on a daily basis. And then the districts reimburse them for the cost. We're supposed to, by law, be reimbursing for the actual costs. Some charter schools are charging just a flat rate fee of what that would look like. So for example, if you have a student that needs specialized instruction from a special education teacher to support them in reading, and they're in a group of 3, the way that the charter school is supposed to be charging us is looking at what that employee costs them for an hour, and then basically taking that rate but dividing it by 3 because we're in a group of 3. Many charter schools are doing a flat rate of, I'm going to charge every district $50 or $70. And it appears as if that is not the actual prices that it's costing them, because charter schools are not supposed to be making a profit. And it appears that they could be making a profit. Now, charter schools will also say that there's additional costs because there's administration fees and time that it takes for them to prepare documents and give progress reports. So there's some back and forth right now between districts and charter schools, particularly around that provision. There's other provisions as well. There's always a liability provision, right? So if the parent is unhappy and they want to go due process, like who does that fall on? Who's responsible? There's other provisions in there about documentation that's required. So, and like Medicaid billing and all that requirements as far as they need to give us documentation. There's provisions in there that say that basically we can go in at any time and just observe and watch what's going on with the program and the students. But that's the one that a lot of districts are getting hung up on. The last update I have, which I will say was probably a month and a half ago, and I don't know exactly how many charter schools there are in the state, but there were still, I think, around 19 charter schools that had not signed MOUs with various school districts within the state. We do have signed MOUs. There's just a couple we still need to negotiate a little bit on.
And correct me if I'm wrong. For the people who don't know, a charter school is usually run by a nonprofit entity.
Correct.
It's not run by the government or by townsfolk like we are here.
Correct.
So it's a little bit different if people are looking at it going, well, how the heck can they do that? Because it's an entity who's running the
Yes.
so-called public charter school.
Yeah. And there are charters and all charter schools that community members, parents can get copies of if they want to actually look at what has been approved for that charter school.
That's all.
Well, son, follow up on that and then I'll get you, Steve. If we don't reach an agreement, who is the,
Decision maker.
thank you, I'll let you, Jim.
Yeah, it's complicated right now. At the end of the day, the students have to be provided their services.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But what I'm looking for is at some point, we need an agreement and it's not working. There are different means in other areas, but I just didn't know, is it a court of law? Is it the commission?
No one's really sure.
Oh, it's not in the statute?
Oh, dear.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
No one's really sure how that's managed. I've actually asked that to legal before. And no one's really sure right now. So unless some district wants to be like the first one to take it off,
Try it on, yeah.
right? It's uncertain given the language. And even the Department of Education, like they're getting more involved in trying to ensure that the school districts and the charter schools, because they're overseeing this, that don't have signed agreements, like they're also working with those entities to try to figure out like, hey, you need an agreement in place. So that's why with the unknown, I took it upon myself to basically negotiate with the charter schools that were giving a little bit more, pushback, so to speak. And we removed certain things from I got a template from legal counsel as far as what our MOU should look like, and then changed it for all the various charter schools. And for the ones that had questions, we removed some of those provisions from the MOU and just said, you know what, we're not even gonna tackle this right now. We're gonna tackle this next year. And then for some, we added some like different language in them that basically said, we're agreeing to this for a year and we're gonna convene on the earlier side next year to renegotiate this for next year.
Well, I guess my concern is I would hope that we have all these MOUs for next year in place before that happens. And the reason I asked about who is, in Terry's words, the decision maker, because at some point you got to put a stake in the ground and say, we need an agreement in place so that everybody knows what the rules are. It's hard to play in the sandbox if you don't know the rules. And when you're talking dollars and cents, usually that's where it gets a little more contentious. So I guess what do we need to do to make sure that we can, if we don't get to a point where in August, we're still trying to get this right? Because in my mind, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks. I don't want to go into next year and not know. Now, we don't get the details, obviously, but from a perspective of what's in the best interest of the district, we should be trying to ensure that we get those agreements in place. And what's the mechanism for resolving if we don't? I don't know what, but that's where I'm coming from. Go ahead.
In my mind, the only way to get these companies that don't want to do it, sorry, entities that don't want to do it, is, the state would, in my mind, would have to step in and say, you either do it, or we shut you down. And that's never going to happen, I'm guessing, but.
With the current state department, I'll say this, with the current Department of Education, unlikely.
Well, and I will say where districts get stuck, as I've been talking to other directors about this, we're actually in a much better place than a lot of school districts are in right now. At the end of the day, some of the charter schools are coming back and saying, well, if you don't want to pay us, we just won't provide the service. And therefore you need to provide it. And we're still obligated to provide it. What that then means is we either have to send a provider into that charter school to provide it, or we have to somehow arrange with the student to come here to our location to still receive that service and then not miss what would be considered, their typical day at the charter school, and then get them back and forth to that charter school. So I hate to say they have the upper hand a little bit, but
I would guess that the DOE wouldn't allow that type of behavior to go on. Because they're looking out for the best interest of the student, right?
Don't comment on that.
no comment.
I can do it.
I
Because I know what's going to happen. I know what support we're going to get from where, and it's going to be next to nothing. And that's why, it's just, okay. I won't put you in a spot, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. So for my own edification and maybe some folks at home, the charter schools, are those the same schools that are the out of district placements for the special ed students? Or is that a separate set of?
Separate.
So we have some students who are out of district placement for special ed needs, and we have some kids who are going to charter schools, but we are still responsible for their education.
Correct.
But I wanted to make sure I was clear on that. I don't know how many folks understand that that's two different things. Because obviously on the special ed side, we have almost no control. But it sounds like we don't get a lot of control on the charter school side either. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So this year, if you recall, we had a special education reading and writing specialist that was based out of the high school. And this year we decided to change that up a little bit. Talk to the individual was totally on board. So they are now working at the elementary school as well as the high school to provide reading and writing specialist services. They seem to be really enjoying their new role. So I'm glad that we did it. The students at the elementary school are benefiting from it. It's going well. And my position has been that if we're really going to target the students that need it most, we should be starting off at the earlier grade levels. So I'm glad to see that this is going well and being successful. We're going to continue this model next year, although right now we're currently looking at which students would benefit most from having a reading and writing specialist provide them services at elementary, middle, and high school, and then figure out a schedule that kind of work for this individual that's manageable. So more to come. Right now, I don't know exactly where they're going to be placed for next year. It's a district-wide position, but I do still see them providing services at elementary and the high school. We're just trying to figure out to also get to middle school.
Would there be a benefit to doing the same thing with math?
We don't have a special education math specialist.
Right, but I'm asking, would it make sense to have one?
I mean, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
This is more of a, just letting the community know, and anybody out there that's watching, that's interested, that's looking for some fun summer work. We are starting to plan for our extended school year services, also known as ESY. We need teachers, we need paraeducators, we need one-to-ones, we need nursing, we need speech, we need PT, OT, BCBAs, you name it, we need it all. So if anybody out there watching is interested, the postings are live on the website. You can apply. And right now, we do have some applicants that I'm going through. So we're in a decent spot, but we certainly need more people still.
And those opportunities, if memory serves me, is mostly morning. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it's mostly morning. Your day starts anywhere between, for most people, usually between 7:15 to like 8 and ends anywhere from, I want to say around 11:30 to
It's okay.
12:45. You're done by 1.
Yeah. And where is that housed?
So for preschool, it's housed here, and for all other grades, it's housed at the middle school.
Middle school coincidentally is air conditioned.
Yes.
I thought I'd mention that for anybody thinking,
Yes.
ooh, summertime teaching.
Yes, it is. And it's just too challenging to move everything at the preschool level. I looked at that last year and there's just too much to move. So we made it work here at one of those does have AC.
Ah,
And then some good news, and this will lead us into our next topic, but we have interviews scheduled for tomorrow for our BCBA hosted position. And when I did this, we had 8 applicants. We had a total of 11 applicants. So we've definitely had some interest in the position, and interviews are tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that and hoping that we have some really great candidates.
One position we have,
BCBA
but it's just one?
at this time,
at this
Yeah.
time.
we're going to take action, hopefully.
Yes. Well, 11 is a nice number to see for applicants.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there were 11 applicants. I will say not all of them are coming in, but there were 11 people that initially applied.
Nice.
So this is some back history regarding BCBA's. So in 22-23, so last year, we had Constellations providing most of our support. So when we had Constellations here, you'll see the costs up there and the breakdowns up there. But essentially we had full-time equivalency of 8 individuals supporting our BCBA needs through either a BCBA or what they call an ABAI, which is similar to RBT, registered behavior analysis. And there was support at all the levels, preschool, elementary, middle school, high school. They supported all of the programs, including your Leaps and Bounds and your Connections program, and then all of your SEL programming, as well as some tier 1 support. And you can see the total cost of that was a little over $830,000. For this year, we changed the model a little bit. We are still using Constellations. We're also now using McBride Consultation Services. And we have a ABAI at 2 of our levels. So we still have Constellations providing their model at preschool and at the Leaps and Bounds program within the elementary school. They're also providing some tier 1 support district-wide. And then in addition to that, we brought in another agency, which is providing support primarily at the elementary school and the middle school 5 days a week, and then some additional part-time support at the middle school, high school, and then if we have those needs out of district, individuals providing that as well. And you will see that we have a total cost for all of that. Plus, we built in behavior coaches this year. So there is about a cost savings from last year of $163,000. Now, if you go to proposals for next year, if we were to hire in-house BCBAs, this proposal gives you a cost analysis of what that would look like if we were to hire 3. So we already have approval for 1. With the one, we're still gonna have to contract out some services. So there is a range of what the position would cost, based off of medical insurance. So you'll see that range there. Right now, there are about 75 students district-wide that have some form of BCBA support, whether it's direct services, consultation. In addition to that, they also take on tier 1 students as needed. Don't have a number for that. So we really could easily fill 3 positions for BCBA support. One would be located at the elementary school, one primarily the middle school, and then as needed. And then preschool, high school, and then as needed. I say as needed because some students might require a lot of BCBA support. They might require 5 to 10 hours of support just from a BCBA per week. Depending on those cases, it might be appropriate for one of the individuals to go to another school. So maybe somebody at the middle school is also going to the elementary school because they're going to support one student that's really time intensive for the support. The total cost of this proposal plus the behavior coaches still saves about $63,500 from this year. And then if you go back to what that was from last year, it's about $220,000 in savings.
Go ahead, Steve.
Just so I'll make sure I'm counting this right. This is BCBA 1. You have 2-person. Is that the insurance? The 2-person thing? So there's 2 people, there's two salaries there.
Right.
With the range, and then pre-K and LRAS would be a total of 3 BCBAs.
Yeah, so in the first one, I gave the breakdown of what a BCBA would cost. It's the same for your 2 and your 3. The reason why there's 2 under 1 is because you have non-certified and you have certified. I guess there's a different, is it retirement, Marjorie? Retirement package that would go along with that. BCBAs are not required to be certified for the position, but some of them might also house a certification, in which case if they do, they will be at a different rate.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just for people at home, traditionally, when we budget a new position, we budget it for a 2-person insurance because we don't know what the person is going to be. And we figure, okay, it could be 1, it could be 3, or it could be not 3, family. Choose the 2, there's a middle, trying to hedge our bets, so to speak.
And I want to add another thing too, with this too, the possibility too of just 1 or 2 students stayed in district. They just, it's not on there, but it's hypothetical. It's $120,000 to $200,000 right there in tuition costs we could save by keeping a kid in district and not having them go out because we weren't able to provide the supports early on.
How many BCBAs are we currently contracting now?
We have 2 ABAI.
By that, I mean, if not part-time, but just if it was all full-time, is it 2.5, 3, 4?
So you've got 2 ABAIs, which are not BCBAs,
Mhm.
ABAIs, and then you have there's 5 different people supporting the district. 2 are in a full-time capacity, 3 are in a part-time capacity.
In the costs on this slide, is this what was budgeted for next year? We're saying it's going to be a cost savings about 63,000. Is that based off of what we budgeted for these positions or not positions, contracted services?
That is your cost savings from this year, but it should match pretty close to what's in the budget.
And so your recommendation for next year is to hire 3.
If we want to move away from contracted services, yes.
Currently, we're interviewing for 1 of them. And depending on the board's action, very shortly, we might be potentially hiring 2. When are we looking to have those individuals if we're able to get one or two qualified candidates and they accept, when are we looking to have them start? Is it in this school year or is it next school year?
So this is based off of next school year.
I know.
However, we could, if we found the right, depending on the candidate, because I also expect that some candidates are going to be interested in starting sooner than later, and some are going to be like, I can't start until next school year. I've actually had people email me, is this a position for now or next school year? So I think if we got approval, we'd be also working with those individuals and saying, okay, you want to start next school year? That's fine. We can make it we have. Okay, you're available now. Then let's get some of the board. We do have to provide notice to our current providers. So we wouldn't start somebody immediately. We have to provide notice.
And they also have to be able to, hopefully their employer,
Correct.
hopefully, one would hope.
Yep.
I'll ask my follow-ups on the next agenda item. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I already have.
Go ahead. Everybody else? Go ahead, Steve.
I just want to, I mean, I think we all know, but just for folks watching, the other bonus by doing this, not only is it a cost savings, but we bring in someone who's here year to year. It's not a floating contracted position, where we may not have the same person every time. So this actually gives a lot of consistency for the students as well.
I would also like to just emphasize as well that this is based off of them providing services for a contract of 220 days. Currently, our contract, we're only contracting them for like student days. So we're also getting more on that end because we're getting more days.
Cost per day is better.
Yes. All right, state indicators. Not reviewing the slide very much. This is more for information purposes only. So we are essentially graded on 14 indicators in the state that come from the Department of Education, special education side of it. There is a fact sheet linked on the slide if anybody wants to read about all 14 indicators. We certainly can. I just kind of titled them as far as which ones are which. I'm going to present on indicator 13, which reviews secondary transitions this evening. But if at a later time you go through the information and you're interested in learning more about another indicator or where we stand with that indicator, I'm happy to present that information as well. So indicator 13 reviews secondary transitions. That looks at your percentage of youth with IEPs age 16 and above with measurable annually updated IEP goals, appropriate transition assessment services, and courses. There is a checklist that I'm going to bring up so you can see what that looks like to go through the cycle through the Department of Education. We had 4 files reviewed here at the high school. There are 7 items that are graded per student. It is a pass or fail system. You have to get all 7 correct in order to pass. You can't miss one. You can see by the table shows you based off of the number of students that are eligible for indicator 13 matches the amount that the state decides to pull. We are at 100% compliance this year, which I would just like to take a moment to celebrate and to thank our amazing teachers and our Dean of Student Support Services at the high school, because they did the brunt of this work and they did a fantastic job. Last year, we were at 66% compliance. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull up something I need in here, and then I'm going to bring you to the checklist.
If you want to mention specific individuals, would be a good time to do so.
So the primary individuals that spent the most time on this were Tara Prue at the high school, Kim Keepan at the high school, both teachers, as well as Angela De Palma, who is the Dean of Student Support Services. So
Thank you.
to all of them. So areas that we are rated on. Do you want me to go through each question? You want me just to pick a couple?
Your pleasure.
Yeah.
Two.
So some of them are things that it's really like, did you do it or did you not do it? So one's as simple as, did you invite the student to the meeting? You have to invite the student to their own meeting. If you didn't do it, you don't pass. And then other things are, did you give the student a transition survey or assessment each year, which really is an informal process, but you sit down with a student and you ask them questions about what are your plans after high school? What is it you're interested in? What do you want to do? So that you can appropriately determine what their transition plan and services would look like for them. Some students want to go to a trade school and they're interested in learning about that trade, and that's what the transition is going to be about. Some students want to focus on how do I learn to manage money so that I can, live on my own. Some students want to research about a subject that they're interested in so they can go to a 2 or 4 year college. So you work with the student to figure that out. And then in addition to that, you plan goals and services for that student so they can obtain that. So you might have a goal that the student needs to learn how to appropriately put together a resume because they're looking for a job, and that's a skill that they need to have. So that could be part of their transition service. Or you might have a student that needs support in their writing mechanics and techniques. Because they're applying to go to a 2 or 4 year college and they need help answering the questions on the applications to go to a college or university. So there's various things that the state looks for. They used to come in and do it in person, but they've been doing it differently. So it's like virtual. So they basically randomly select your students, tell you the students in advance, and then you have to go into the software system that we use, and you have to upload the documentation that provides evidence of these different areas into the system, and then they go in on their own time and they review it and they do their reporting out on if you passed or failed the compliance check. So, if any further questions on it, again, I can elaborate more. But awesome work from the high school individuals, and I just want to celebrate it.
Great job, Bon. I'll recognize you because you're here, but obviously everybody, but you said it was what, 66 last time, and recent memory is that it's not been so good either. Going back years. So great job.
Thank you.
That's my presentation. But I believe I'm sticking around for the next
Yep, don't go anywhere.
conversation.
Anything else for Jody for her presentation? Thanks, Jody. Next up, BCBA position. Terry?
Yes, in all fairness, Jody and I have been meeting on this the last 2 or 3 days. I know, excuse me, that we were going to ask for an additional one. But the need is definitely additional 2. And we've had a plethora of applicants. It's a cost savings to the district. It's the board's privy if they want to go with the 1 or the 2, which would be a total of 2 or a total of 3. But basically, as you can see, we have the salaries. Typically, we're paying right around $176,000 to $200,000 for out of district, and our cost would be $138,000 or with a double, a 2-person, and $147,000 for a family plan.
To clarify, it's not out of district, it's contracted. service.
Contracted service.
I just want to clarify.
Yep.
You would, yeah.
Yep.
Questions, comments?
So hiring one, we're paying 176 right now. We would pay 147 with that. So we're
With that 176, to be honest with you, that's our current rate, and we're getting a deal. If we were to go somewhere else, it could be up to $200,000.
right, but even at the current deal,
Yes, we're making money. We're saving money.
30,000 per person to just do a swap.
Yeah.
From contracted to in-house.
To our in-house.
And as you mentioned, you get the benefit of having an employee that calls Raymond, for like a better way of saying it, they're home.
And they're vested and continuity.
Yeah.
And not relearning. And this is how I do it. And that's a whole, you know.
Joe?
I know the answer to this, but just for the public, if we went to hire two now, we have the money in our budget to do that.
Right now,
Yes.
yeah, but it would be complicated, Joe, due to contracts and all that stuff.
Okay.
I would say if we got lucky and hired one now and the other two started July 1, that would be ideal. I don't think all three are going to be able, we would start. I just don't think, yes, we could. Simple answer. Just, all right, let's just get to the, yeah, we could.
Yeah, because again, we have, as of the last report, ballpark, I think was on the conservative side, $400,000 in,
Yeah.
on the expense side. But the other side of that is obviously, if we were hiring somebody, that means we no longer need to contract that service. So we've got that money also.
Yes.
But I also understand that, it's not as easy as that because I don't know what the contracts look like with the contracted services, but my guess is you just can't tell them today
No, there's a time.
yeah. And also, as that's why I was asking earlier is, what's the chances of us getting 1, 2, or 3 of them hired in this year?
Yeah.
But again,
It could happen.
missing unknowns,
Yeah.
missing, but unknowns. Go ahead, Marjorie.
And the costs that you saw up there are for a full year. So if we were to hire 2 right now, it would only be halfway through March, end of March. So it really
At
would be
best.
for 3 months. So it would be, that divided by 4.
I would say in the best interest of some of your students, I would also be cautious replacing all the positions right now because some students are going to take more time to transition to an individual, to another person. And it might be better to do that separation during the summer. But I do think it would be appropriate to potentially hire at least one person now if applicants are interested in starting now. And when I say now, I mean.
I understand. Yep. Yes, for me, I'm in supporting of hiring the 3 if we can. And if we can have them start today, that's great. If we can't, it's whatever you folks work out to me, whether it's starting in March 31st or July 1st. Whatever day it works for everybody, because obviously as we covered, so if you would hire person X and they're not available until July 1st, then easy conversation. If they're available sooner, then the conversation's different. That's where I'm at. Go
So
ahead, Steve.
we have on the agenda 1, we're talking about increasing that to 3 more or to 2 more?
Because currently we
We
approved,
have 1 already.
we already approved 1, and that's how we've got the 11 applicants because we posted for that. Or actually, it's been posted. What happened was we increased the salary, which I think might have increased the pool a little bit.
Little enticement.
I mean, if you pay
Surprising.
people well, they'll come do the job.
Shocking,
I
huh?
know.
All right. We get a motion if we could.
So I'll make the motion to have the possibility to hire 2 more BCBA's.
I would say just approve internal positions. And then,
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve 2 internal BCBA's for whenever you can hire them.
yeah, does that work? Yep. Get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Jody.
Thanks, Jody.
Thanks, Terry. All right. Now for some exciting stuff. Impact fees. Impact fees. You want to stick around for impact? Knock yourself out,
Are
Jody.
you having trouble?
I'd asked Terry to look into impact fees. As we know, currently, the impact fees that we collect are offsetting the bond payment at the middle school. The impact fees are collected by the town and then distributed to us at some point. And the bond here at the high school, we're going to make our last payment in August. In theory, we haven't been using it for that. The reason I bring it up is because we have the 2 bonds. The middle school bond, we pay our last payment in August of 25. And I just wanted to know what do we need to do so we don't lose or the town doesn't stop collecting the impact fees, making sure that we've got all our ducks in a row prior to, geez, in July of 25, let's figure out what we should be doing. So I wanted to try to figure out what we need to be doing. And so that's how we got to this point. But,
Well, if you're done, I mean,
well, I was just gonna have Terry share what he found.
In a nutshell, we could use impact fees for capital improvement projects. And John and I were basically talking, we're implying that's a brick and mortar. It would not be, as he said, a chain link fence. It would be something like a new furnace, air handler, something that is impactful to the building to make sure that we are operating it as a capital improvement.
Yeah, because when we had done this years ago, when it first, I think I was on the board when it started, not that that's important, but just from memory's perspective, it was, we could use it on bonds or capital. And I just wanted to make sure it was still the case because we were losing the bond. And I just wanted to make sure it was capital. And the other piece of information that's important to understand also is when we collect these fees, we have to expend them within 6 years. Fortunately for us, because we have the bond payment, the minute we get it, we spend it on the bond. So it hasn't been an issue for us since the town has collected the fees for us. And I just didn't want to get into a position where we weren't doing something correctly so that we wouldn't be able to, or the town wouldn't be able to collect these impact fees. So it sounds like all we need to do is continue doing what we're doing with our capital improvement plan. And we just need to make sure that we expend those monies within 6 years. So. Go ahead, Cindy.
So how do they collect that? Is that just from the taxes collected, or is that from, like, say somebody's putting in a building or something?
I am by no means an expert on impact fees, but what little I know is, for example, it would be a housing. I don't know if it's an individual house they collect or if it's multi-units. I'm assuming it's individual houses and beyond that they collect, but I'm not sure of that. It's to recognize that when you build houses, sometimes children come with them
Right.
and they impact. That additional construction has an impact on the school. And so they collect the fee for that. I don't know the wording of the impact fees on the town side. I know we get a check. I get giddy all about it. And
So there's no
little
way-
things like that, Marge. I know.
Is that a public record as to how much they charge, and
The town side, absolutely. Yeah, it's all,
go there and find out
Sure.
who they charge that to?
yeah, I'm assuming they have a fee structure.
Yeah.
And right now, unfortunately, they're only collecting the school, not unfortunately for us, but for the town as a whole. I know the town is trying to struggle with, okay, how do we
Yeah.
start collecting impact fees on the town side? Go ahead.
town's not gonna collect impact fees. It's called something else.
Oh, yeah.
I forget what it's
What's
called
the word?
I forget what it's called.
Oh. man.
Because action,
Well, because impact fees come with certain stipulations, so they decided to go.
yeah, I won't,
Oh, I can't think of the word.
So when, for lack of a better example, the Domino's building went up, the school got an impact fee, but the town did not.
I don't know
That's-
this.
that's
I
true.
don't think we would have gotten an impact fee because having a Domino's doesn't impact us.
So there's no, okay, so.
It's
because-
residential, I believe. And
Yeah,
I don't know this for sure. I'm going back years and years ago as to my understanding. It's charging a builder a fee because there's a potential impact on the school. The Domino's wouldn't have an impact on the school. It would have an impact on the town,
right.
but not the school. You build a $400,000 house, potential
So
impact.
They charge them separate. So I've done a little in the previous life with commercial real estate, and I know there's impact fees that the city and towns collect because of things like roads and
Mhm.
maintenance and police and fire. I guess I didn't realize there was a separate fee for schools against residential. I
believe that's my
all together.
understanding.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, we're fortunate
Okay.
because we've had this bond payment and we've had it's been a 20-year bond. And so I don't remember exactly when the town started collecting impact fees, but it was, we had this automatic ability to just pay it for 20 years using that. And again, I don't know if it's been the full life of the bond, but go ahead, Joe.
We may want to look at the impact fees, but I think the planning board or whatever, to see if we're maybe charging the right amount now, because we haven't exactly gone up in so long.
I don't know how they manage it. Yeah, that's a conversation for the planning board, certainly not us, but
Well, I don't know if we have, because I think we have to initiate it though. If we're,
I don't know. I don't know.
if we could look into it that way. I just want to know if we're charging the right amount of money now, because it has been a little.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. So.
Probably not.
So I don't know that there's any action necessary, Terry, right? I mean, in the sense that it's just more of, if there was going to be something that we need to do, we have action. But it appears that we're all set with, because after the bond payment gets paid in August of 25, that payment will go there in the school year of 25, or 25, 26. Thereafter, we'll be able to use it for capital, and we'll just have to use it within 6 years. Anything else on that? All right. Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome.
Next up, new revised policies, first reading. First one up is IKL, Academic Honesty and Integrity. And this is new. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the big thing there is the use of AI. And then there's also some other conversation about obviously honesty and integrity to that. Go ahead.
Interestingly enough, with the whole improper use of AI, I didn't realize that we have some individuals are checking to see whether students are using AIs by using an AI.
Oh, wow.
Which,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're being like invented as like countermeasures,
Yep.
essentially,
Mhm.
which is ironic, but.
ChatGPT can tell you if ChatGPT wrote it.
well, yeah, we don't.
So it's not, don't ask, don't tell.
But but it actually comes up with, the system that we have, it sounds like it could be. It's
Yep.
too robotic, and I'm sitting there going, have you seen my kid write before? Because he's like,
He's pretty
he's
robotic.
very plain. It's not exactly, and I'm sitting there going, how the heck do they even check these things? Because I actually saw him write the thing, so I knew he didn't use ChatGPT, so.
We'll talk later.
Oh, he got flat. I don't
Yeah.
care. He didn't get in trouble.
Oh.
And I knew what he did. I mean, he was right there when I watched him do it. He was asking me questions and stuff like that about the whole thing. And I'm like, the whole thing was, he sounded a little robotic, and I'm sitting there, you gotta change it. You sound a little robotic. I'm like, huh?
Had a few adjectives.
Did they use an AI to analyze this paper?
That's what it kind of sounded like.
Yeah, they're using it here at the high school. I don't know about the middle school, but that's happening.
It's not exactly 100% accurate.
No.
The same
no.
way the AI itself doesn't get facts right when you're writing a paper.
Well, when you do.
Humans are doing it, so ultimately, right? Yeah.
When you do an AI project and you say what you want, if you just change it, does that still look like it's AI? If you just change some of it to make it more
I
your.
haven't used it personally, but what the AI does is it analyzes patterns. So if it said, hey, this is too complex, make it simpler, it's going to analyze any writing that has been essentially credited as dumbed down online, sort of filters through that
Oh,
and
interesting.
then goes through it. So, but it's not exactly foolproof from what I've seen, because I've seen little clips and things like that, and I'm like, why would you use this? It's absurd.
AI can hallucinate too. So you can, that's what they call it, hallucination. So if you ask it a factual question, write me a paper about the War of 1812. Some of that might not really have been what happened. It will
Right.
generate facts and information, but it's not doing research. It's,
Yeah, because it's taken from papers of 1812 that somebody else wrote that wasn't factual.
well,
And
it's telling a story, and it builds it with this large language model, and it predicts what words should come next based on what
Yes.
it just wrote.
It's a really good guessing machine.
And so it's quite possible that the War of 1812 happened in 1976, which is probably not going to fly on a history exam. So it's very important that, you can't rely on it. It's a good tool to augment, but it shouldn't be used to replace anything.
Even to get
If any high school students are listening,
Yeah, really.
which they're not.
And the interesting part is colleges are even, not all, are integrating AI into the class. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's the way of what's going to be going
The
on.
first thing that happened was.
And it might be taking over.
They say it's gonna ruin us all. It's gonna make it too easy. They just can go to the internet to find the answer. Oh, well, we got the answer now. Now somebody's gonna help us do the research and write the paper, but you still are gonna have to go through and use your own thoughts and your own, and check it and read it. And so it's just another, it's going to be a research tool in the next 10 years.
Just like another, the Encyclopedia Britannica was.
Yeah, when you used
Yeah.
to copy it word for word, oh, we can do that. Well, you did it when you were seventh grade, but all of a sudden you had, oh, yeah.
That still doesn't work. Yeah, the rules still apply.
Yeah.
The way I've seen it used best is I was applying to Georgia Tech and they were like, hey, you can use that AI for inspiration and just sort of like refine your process, but don't write an essay with it, please.
As a person that struggles to write, I'll put something in, it gives me the prompt and I'm like, okay, then I can Terryize it. I'm just,
Right.
because I mean, you give me a talk, I can talk to you all day. For me to write, oh, it's brutal. It's a good tool, huh?
You mean terrorize it?
Yeah. It's just,
I saw one quote that was very interesting because one of my primary things is automation, and AI is very heavily leveraged in automation these days. That this is the last generation that will grow up using a keyboard and a mouse.
wow.
Everything from here on out will be spoken to.
We supposedly got rid of cursive writing too, but that's back.
I'm just saying, that's the AI prediction, that you'll talk to the computer.
And
and
then what if the?
We're heading into Star
internet
Trek
goes down?
territory, is what
I don't think
it
I've
sounds
ever
like.
been
Cavemen.
comfortable with having to speak with something, given how slow or inaccurate Siri is. Like I'm trying to visualize a world where I'm basically just talking to Siri and it sounds like a nightmare. I
It
gotta
won't
wait-
be
I
serious,
gotta wait
but-
15 seconds for it to think about the word the, while it's like, oh, I misheard you. You said, instead of like, say, War of 1812, you
But why-
said dance of 1977? No, Siri.
Why do we think though that we're always gonna have the internet? Like the internet, like just yesterday, Facebook went down. And I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I was like doing something and I'm like, they signed me out. I don't remember my password. Like I was like a little stressed out, but then by 3 o'clock it was all set. And I don't know. I don't think we should rely on talking to stuff. I think we should still
I'm not
try to
saying it's my
write
opinion. That was the
do
quote I read,
arithmetic.
and it made me think about where we're heading, and then it makes me think about educationally how we leverage those tools.
Right.
Someone
And that's
else
the
can
key,
turn it
right?
on.
It's just another tool in our toolbox.
That's good.
How do we use it productively?
I think education is due for an overhaul. And I think it's coming. I don't know
I think it's time to
Like
get
that-
back to education.
or how that would be effectively produced, just from a student's perspective. I don't know.
I'm just waiting for Skynet and the T800 to walk through the door.
All right, anything else on
Must be
policy?
working on half of that.
Anything else on policy IKL? All right. Next up, policy JCA, change of class or school assignment, best interest and manifest hardship. Most of these are a result of the changes resulting in a passage of a law in 2023. And then there are some clarifying things in there also and adding language. Questions, comments on JCA? All right, next up. KCD, public donations and acceptance of gifts. The policy committee looked at this with Terry, obviously he's part of it. And that we're changing it from the amount that the board has to approve, going from 500 to 2,500. And that's the gist of this change.
So essentially, we only need to approve anything 2501 and above.
Right.
Well, it actually reads, but less than 2,500. So it would be 2,500 and above.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because right now it's 500 and above.
Right.
And we just thought it hadn't been updated in years, so. Anything on policy KCD? All right. Next up, new revised policies, second reading. None of these are at the first reading had any changes. First one up is BDH, student member of school board. Get a motion, please.
I'd like a motion to accept BDH student member of school.
Get a second?
A second.
Second by Steve. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next up, BDH-R, duties of the student member of the school board. Get a motion for that.
I'll make a motion that we accept policy BDH-R, duties of the school, of the student member of the school board.
Get a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next up, policy BDHA, duties of the school board member serving as the student mentor. Get a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to accept policy BDHA, duties of the school board member serving as a student mentor.
Second, please.
Second.
Second by Steve. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Policy JLCF, wellness policy.
I'll make a motion to accept JLCF wellness policy.
Sure, take
Okay,
the short
Tony.
one.
Get a second?
Second.
Second by Cindy. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Strategic plan update, Terry.
I apologize. This was a little late. I was sick Thursday and Friday of last week, then the vacation. And I finally got all the chairs together today so we could talk about these. So I will go through this. Our ELO program is really growing with the support of the superintendent. Each school will collaborate with new community partner in order to increase positive involvement with our local community. As I mentioned, our ELO program continues to grow. We have New Hampshire Healthcare Sector Partnership, which provides a more hands-on experimental learning opportunities. I Build New Hampshire Construction Partnership is meeting to establish business relationships. Carl Munson is a small local business owner. He produces maple products and Mills Lumber and has provided us some rough lumber at a good price. Our own Comrade, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, Laving, as our grounds maintenance individual, and he's volunteered to teach chainsaw familiarization and safety classes for our wood and construction classes in April. Mr. Warren Bain, a local business owner, has expressed an interest in an after-school apprentice program that would teach students woodworking skills and potential employment opportunities. At the middle school, we're in the process of partnering with LifeBridge Mentoring Agency. This organization is similar to Big Brother, Big Sisters, but it's local to the local New Hampshire Seacoast. We're looking to connect with families with LifeBridge if they're interested in their student having an adult mentor outside of school. We're also in the process right now of doing some background checks on some of these mentors. And as Jessica mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we've extended our CELT arrangement for the 24-25 year, and that's basically the new conservation land. Developing overmints to parents, we've done that. Homeroom and ramp teachers, the second round of phone calls have been completed. Teachers share classroom updates at least monthly. 99% of students have contacts with Power School and 40,000 plus messages have been sent district-wide to Parent Square.
Could you, in the Friday memo, give us a few samples from each school on those?
Where's that Parent Square? Let's see here. Students will have opportunities to showcase their learning. On May 24, LRAS Night of Arts, the middle school RAM rallies. They continue to put work on the walls for the public to see when in the building. Public display of My Path Minutes is also up, so parents can see how students are working on when they enter the building. iReady. They've invited parents in the classroom for student work in grade 4. RHS Honors Breakfast, we're really doing a nice job of honoring our students who make the honor roll. And the Monster Concert's coming up on March 14th. That's basically a concert with all 3 schools. That's here at the high school, 6 o'clock. Raymond School District, in collaboration with his partners, will host family community events such as book bashes, STEM nights 2 times a year. We just had a family fun night on January 12th, and the middle school has got a career fair set up for April 17th. Increase parental knowledge of the impacts of behaviors on school environment, provide parents and guardians tools and strategies. We're continuing to work on continue to provide resources in our newsletters.
The middle school is planning on hosting a parent evening to talk about social media and technology. I think that's it for the,
Wait, there's some bowling for books or books for bowling.
I think that's happening too. Yep.
Give them a shout out.
But you're gonna give a shout out?
Go, do
Oh,
you
you
feel on there?
I do not. Feel free, Tone.
Had it with.
I do not.
So we got it March 21. And sometime in April,
It's the same day as Mr. Raymond.
Wednesday, the 17th of April.
21st.
Probably different target, audience.
Maybe.
My problem is it's always on a Wednesday, so I can't go. It's always on a school board night.
Anything else, Terry, on that? Questions, comments for?
May 15th also.
Thank you very much. Next up. Donation acceptance from Bethany Church.
We have a $2,635.79 donation from the Bethany Church that will be put forward to the food service balances.
Get a motion, please, to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation from the Bethany Church of $2,635.79 towards service balance.
Can I ask the obvious?
Get a second first.
Second.
Second, go ahead, Tony.
Can I ask the obvious question of where does that put us?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Basically, we apply this to all the individuals who are free and reduced but had a bill previous to.
Thank you.
So that takes care of their debt. All right, so there's still debt.
Yeah, last time I knew it was over 14,000.
I was gonna say it was
Yeah.
like 14
We started at
And that was, I think,
zero.
months ago.
a while ago.
Yeah, we were,
That quick.
I think before the year started, I think we were at 0, right?
All right. Well,
Constant struggle.
at least kids are eating.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. All right, we've got the motion and seconded. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
If we make sure that we
Yeah.
communicate and thank Bethany Church. Next up, committee reports.
I don't think there's much.
Crickets. Correspondence or other? All right, what's that?
Superintendent.
I was out Friday sick, vacation sick.
Oh, no, I'm,
Say my wife ran a marathon.
thank you, Steve.
So
I guess
allowed to get her sick, so
I have an other.
thanks, Sherry.
Yeah, I'll get you in. Anything else on the superintendent? I'm sorry.
Hold on here. We did, we met today and we are finalizing the plans for the PD day on Tuesday. Just, it's amazing trying to coordinate a K to 12 workshop or, alignment and
That's what I was waiting for.
yeah.
Is it gonna be in the 3 schools or is it one school doing it?
Basically what we're, boy, John, now you'd ask me this.
And
It's
it's,
not going to be, it's going to be divided up. So UA teachers will be going to the elementary. I think, K to 6, or no, excuse me, K to 6, we're going to meet at the middle school, 6 through 12 here. And then, there's going to be a focus on social studies and science because we basically, in K to 5, we have a curriculum for reading and math. So we know there's that alignment there that's happening there. So we know that. So we're taking a look at that. So that's kind of the breakout. And we've established forms today. Pete worked on some forms. I know, Tom sent out some criteria too. We're going to make sure that there's 3 administrators moving around to different groups so that we can stay engaged and, and on topic.
All right, I have a
thank you, go ahead.
question. So is that something that moving forward, we can arrange it so, I mean, build in time throughout the year so the building, grade to grade within the building can coordinate? So you can focus what little time you do have where you can have the school to school connection.
Yep.
Prioritize on that.
Yeah, and it's, as we, quite honestly, it's more importantly that 3 to 4, 3 to 5.
Right. Yeah.
And then the 7 to 8, to 9 to 10 to make sure that, granted it's the whole picture, but there's those couple years that, are really, really what's happening. But again, social studies, how many times are we teaching the Declaration of Independence? I always say, well, if a kid, well, you're going to get it 3 or 4 more times. Do we really need to do that? I know that we impacted, when I was at Barrington, we never could get past the Civil War because
4 years. And I'm like, what are we doing here? So we, as social studies department said, all right, we need to start focusing because, you know, there's a lot that's happened since the 1850s till now. I mean, you couldn't get there because everybody would get bogged down in Revolutionary War and, you know, we couldn't get anywhere. So we really worked on that. So that's stuff that they're going to talk about.
Thanks, John. Now, I'll try it again. Correspondence or other?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to, I wasn't earlier for the Read Across America, but I want to thank the middle school for having me yesterday. It was yesterday. Go in and read too.
Yes.
It was yesterday. I'm a busy guy, Joe. I don't know. Runs into each other. Hard to tell. But yeah, I had fun doing that. I want to thank them and look forward to. Hopefully, I don't have to read to high school students next, but if I have to, I will.
All right. All right. Manifest.
Sorry. Payables before you tonight, $544,489.18. Payroll, $530,798.56 for a total of $1,075,287.74. Thank you.
Thanks, Marjorie.
I have nothing against high school kids, just for clarity. The older they are, the harder it is to read to them. That's the point.
They like the
I
little
love
kids.
high school.
They like
Yeah,
the
the
little
whole
kids.
day, we were going to actually have, we had an anthology. We're going to,
When we come in and read here, just reading all kinds of nice fables.
Imagining like just the senior class alone, just imagining them sitting down.
Crisscross applesauce.
Yeah.
I actually learned a new word
All right.
today. It's quisquas.
Okay.
Quisquas.
Um,
Look it up.
All right.
That word.
Next up,
It's funny that.
approval of minutes, February 21st, 2024. I do have a question. On page 6, the very top, monthly financial update. I'll let everybody get there. What it states is during discussion, she being Miss Whitmore, stated that she thinks that the lunch debt balance will improve as there have been a lot of staff changes, so she will be updating the salary and benefits. I think it should be no debt, just the school lunch balance or food program, because it implies what we talked about before, the debt is being
Yep.
The individual's
Referring to more of the deficit.
deficit. Thank you. So should just replace debt with deficit? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All set, Jen, on that? I believe you are, but we'll make sure.
Yes, yes, thanks.
If there's nothing else, we'll get a motion to approve the amended minutes for February 21st.
Make a motion that we approve the amended minutes for February 21st, 2024.
Get a second? A second. Second by Tony. All those in favor? Aye, motion passes unanimously. All right, next up, we get a motion to go into non-public, please.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public. The RSA 91A: 3, Roman numeral 2,
C&M.
C and M.
Get a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. Joe?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Tyler, again.
Figured after 4 years I could go.
You know who's running?